All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. I've got quite a few updates today, and as the title suggests, yes, Ben Affleck may not be done as Batman, and we're going to look at that article, and this came directly from Andy Muschietti himself, and we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to give you an update on the Twitter fiasco from yesterday, and we're going to look at a few things. So let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to look at here is this Sorry Miss Jackson 702. This was the tweet that she did yesterday. And I left a comment in there, as you guys saw yesterday, that if she didn't take this down, that there could possibly be legal action taken because she's inferring things that were not true. I still find it crazy that she's including me with these other people. My channel is not quite that big. I wish it was that big, but I don't believe that my channel is that big. But you can see that this tweet has now been deleted. I think she understood what she did was wrong, and she took it off. So I'm going to give kudos to her for realizing her mistake and taking that off. Some people said she's a very respectable person. I know absolutely nothing about her. So some people came in and defended her journalism. But to include me in this, and especially off of my voiceover thing, not okay. Not okay at all, especially when I never personally attacked Ezra Miller. Now, this here, I don't understand why actors will do this because this isn't usually how they get cast. But it says actor Ben Barnes has expressed his interest in portraying the DCU's brand new Batman. I do not see him as Batman. First of all, the guy is very, very skinny. He's not very buff. And, for them to be a part of the actual DCU and to be live-action Batman with a bunch of Justice League members, I think he needs to be more beefed up, more of a real Batman, not a young, early Batman. So I'm not sure. I don't think they would cast him. He just doesn't seem like the Batman type. I've seen him in several movies, and he does not seem to have that gruff, serious nature to him. So it just doesn't seem like he'd fit the role, in my opinion. Now, this here also came out from Total Film, and most of my articles today come from Total Film, but it says, The Flash director reveals he reached out to Zack Snyder. I talked to Zack Snyder, and I just wanted to tell him that we would be respectful to the stuff that he did before. Man of Steel obviously is foundational to this movie, and it's something that most DC fans know very well. What's funny is, the Warner Brothers Discovery and Warner Brothers in general has been doing their best to distance themselves from the stuff that Zack Snyder started. And I find it crazy that they'll continue to use his stuff and talk about him when they're trying to promote this movie. It's very disingenuous in my eyes. It's just a way to try and get the fans that they have alienated over into their camp to try and help this movie do better than it probably will. Now, I saw this pop up yesterday. People were saying that, James Gunn is probably going to use AI instead of real actors to do some of the animated projects, because James Gunn talked about how one of the things he wants to do with the DCU, which I think is a cool idea, one of the few things I like about what he's doing, is the fact that if they do animated features, those same actors who play those characters in the animated shows are going to also voice them if they have live-action counterparts. And it says here that the DCU will not use AI in animation, says James Gunn. He adamantly came out and said he will not use AI, that they will actually be using real actors. And this is part of what, and I do believe him on this, because this is part of what this strike is with the actors and with the screenwriters, the writers. It has to do with AI coming in, and they're not going to budge on this. This is one of those things that is not going to go away because of how quickly AI is starting to take over stuff. So I do believe he's being very honest when he says this. So here's the article we're going to look at. Again, from Total Film. It says, exclusive. The Flash filmmakers Andy and Barbara Muschietti break down their multiversal epic discussing Michael Keaton's return in flip-flops, why this might not be Ben Affleck's swan song, those sequel rumors, and that Tom Cruise phone call. So we're going to look at this. All right, let me move over to that article. So here's the article. There's a lot of nonsense in here, but it goes on to say, when Games Radar Plus sits down with the Flash director Andy Muschietti and producer Barbara Muschietti, the DC blockbuster has already been screened countless times for fans and critics alike. Hype is at a critical level. That's all this is. With Stephen King's praise and Tom Cruise's enthusiastic cold call, especially making waves. With so much buzz building around the film, then, are the Muschietti siblings feeling the pressure? No, Andy says. If anything, we got more confidence in the thing than we did, because the movie was finished by the time that Tom Cruise and King saw it, so it was a confidence boost, if anything. So what they're trying to say is that what the fan screening saw was not the same screening that Cruise and King saw. And they go on to say that Tom Cruise actually called them and talked to them for 15 minutes, praising Andy, praising the film. And it just feels very good because we worked really hard to make these movies. Now, here's how I view this. This here is what you call, well, what they're doing here is kind of reverse psychology. And, reverse psychology. Because what they're saying is if you don't appreciate our movie, then you should feel bad because we worked really hard to make these movies. That's pretty much what they're saying when they mention this in the thing. They're really pushing the fact that Tom Cruise and King like this movie. They keep pushing this, which, again, is weird to have actors come in and do this. So they talk a little bit about the movie and what's going on in the film, and I'm not going to cover that. So they talk about not Bruce Wayne or Ben Affleck, but they talk about Michael Keaton coming back. And it says, one of the most exciting aspects of Flash's team of misfits is the return of Michael Keaton's Batman. The last seen on screen in Tim Burton's duo of Bat movies. He's not quite how you remember him, though, having hung up the cape and cowl and grown an impressive head of hair. There are some interesting sartorial choices, too, Andy fixated on. I'm going to put Batman in flip-flops, laughs Barbara. And yes, he is in flip-flops in the movie with really long hair. Again, that's the first meeting with Barry, and it is very goofy. Naturally, the flip-flops aren't the only thing that has changed in the year since Batman Returns. It's always a thrill to speculate or imagine that Batman will come back. But also, the thing that was very exciting to me was basically filling the space of those 30 years and where we haven't seen what Bruce is up to, says Andy. And that was part of my conversation with Michael Keaton. And it was great, because we had a lot of fun creating the timeline when we don't know what he did. We're not left totally in the dark about how Bruce has been keeping busy, though. There's things that imply what he was up to. You see the technology he created. The idea is that after Batman Returns, he went on for 10 years being Batman, and he did some alterations and improvements to his gear. We see a new Batwing. We see a new suit. Some of the sketches seem new. The Batcave is a little bit refurbished. The Batmobile is the only thing that didn't change. I wanted to keep that the same. So they go on to talk about the multiverse here, and if you're wondering why we're dealing with two Batman, a Supergirl rather than a Superman, and a double dose of Barry Allen, the answer is simple. In the multiverse, anything is possible. And he says, that was total freedom, says Andy. They asked him if there were any rules about playing in the multiverse sandbox. We brought, the cameo is redacted, I know who it is now, and said there really are no rules, chimes in Barbara, name-checking one of the film's most jaw-dropping appearances. As long as they were DC characters, everything was allowed. And I made a list of superheroes that I love, that I would love to see, and it was a long list. And then for time matters, for pacing, we had a short list that a little bit. The movie is a result of that short list, but I'm pretty thrilled by the superheroes that we gather. So they go on. Let's get to the cool part of this here. Okay, so this goes on to talk about Zod, and it goes on to talk about the ties with Man of Steel. And it says here after that Zod isn't the only familiar face from the Snyderverse to make an appearance either. Affleck's Batman also features in what's thought to be the send-off to the character, pending a potential Aquaman 2 cameo. So what they're saying here, and I think, again, this is lip service to get people to go see Aquaman 2, and I'm noticing that the studio is claiming all kinds of things and hyping things up and not making them quite what they said they were going to be, because I will tell you that his sister, Barbara Muschietti here, she came out and said that the cameos, or not the cameos, but the post-credit scenes are really going to get people excited, and they're not. If you've heard what all the post-credit scenes are, there's nothing exciting about them. Again, they're just trying to get people to go see the movie. And he goes on to say that, so this is what Barbara says. When Games Radar puts this to the Muschiettis, though, they aren't so sure. How do you know it's his last time, Barbara asks. The truth is that the multiverse allows anything or everything to happen, says Andy. As Bruce Wayne says in The Flash, there are infinite timelines and inevitable intersections. And that's one of the things that excites me about portraying the multiverse in this movie, is that it opens up the possibility to bring back people the moment you least expect. So I'd like to think that it's not a send-off. We'll see. So let's talk about this story here. Okay, so here's how I see this. I see this as nothing other than public relations. They're trying to hype the movie up some more. They're saying, look, we've got him on our side. We're possibly going to bring him back in the future. Come see the movie. We'll keep doing this stuff. It's a way to get people into the seats. I don't think there are any intentions of bringing him back. I really don't. And we've already seen Ben Affleck come out and say definitively he will not do anything. He refuses to come back for anything to do with the DCU. He wants nothing to do with it. So I do believe for the time being he's done, unless Plan B goes into effect. And so the rumors out there, and I'm going to talk a bit about The Flash's ending and some of the people's comments from yesterday, and I want to address something at the end of the video here. So again, you're going to want to drop off if you don't want any spoilers here in a minute. But as far as I see all of this, it's just a way to get people to try to go see the movie. It's nothing other than a PR stunt. That's all it is. I don't think they have any intention of bringing him back, and Ben Affleck definitely doesn't want to come back under James Gunn. He's made that very clear. And I now do believe that Henry Cavill was the one who decided not to come back, that he may have been given the opportunity, but when he saw the plans, he probably hightailed it. That's what I'm assuming at this stage because of the things that I've seen and heard. All right, let's talk about the ending of The Flash. So a lot of people kind of made fun of me for even entertaining the idea that Clooney could be back as Batman. And I don't think it's that far-fetched, and here's why. I've actually seen the movie. There is a theme to the film. It wasn't laid out as well as it could have been, but the whole point of the film is that Barry has messed with the timeline, and you shouldn't keep messing with things because you're just going to screw things up further, and that he just needs to back off. So at the end of the movie, if he's in this Clooney-verse, he's not going to try and fix it. I mean, he's accomplished what he needed to accomplish and understands the repercussions of what he's doing. And they make that kind of the theme of the last act, which, again, was kind of thrown in there, I think, at the last minute and should have been done in a better fashion. I think the storytelling could have been done better in regards to that. And I lay that on the whoever the screenwriter was for the film. And he isn't going to want to mess with things any further, because if he goes and messes with things, it could screw things up that went well. And so I think he's going to be afraid to leave that timeline. So unless they're just not going to have him be the Flash going forward and he stays there in the Clooneyverse and they do something completely different, they're still going to have to explain that to the audience. You can't just go from this film, The Blue Beetle, to Aquaman and then into Superman and have everything different. Like, how this movie does not do a great job of explaining how they're going to make that transition. It doesn't actually do anything to explain how they're going to make that transition. So to make it so it's not confusing to the audience, I don't know how they're going to do that, because the regular people, regular moviegoers are going to go to the theater expecting to see Henry Cavill back as Superman. There's no question about that. And so they're going to have to explain this a little better than what they do in this film, because that's not going to cut it, especially if they're, like I said, unless they're going to leave Barry Allen where he is and come up with a new Barry Allen. So that does bring up some interesting questions and thoughts as to what they're going to do moving forward. There is a rumor, well, it's not really a rumor, they have announced that there is already a second script written for The Flash 2. And it's way further along in what they could start doing than Superman Legacy is. So there is a very real possibility that they could do The Flash 2 prior to Superman Legacy coming out and kind of make these things mesh together better. And I do believe that that is probably the plan. So we may see a Flash 2 fast-tracked after this movie gets released so that they can make the DCU more cohesive. Those are just some thoughts on my end. All right, so there's my update for the day. I do appreciate the support. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you will be notified as I have new videos go up.